This is Art Talk with April, an artist podcast where we meet artists from all around the southeastern states and around the world. Thanks for joining us. Let's get started. Hi everyone, welcome to Art Talk with April. Today we have Kitty Smothers back, and she was in season 1, episode 9, and we went through, how she got started in art and, what she's inspired by and things like that. But I had noticed that Kitty has changed a lot of the things she's doing, and so I kind of wanted to jump in there and say, hey, what's going on? So how have you been? I think the last time we talked, you were, I want to say, doing landscapes, or you were doing some surface designs for bags and things like that.
Yeah.
What?
I feel like I've always been doing a little bit of everything. all over the place.
Yeah.
But yeah, whenever we last talked, I believe that was when I had started a lot of a landscape series, and had created several big landscape pieces called the Fields of Home series, maybe, but just kind of focused on that. My background has always been like in portrait paintings.
Yeah.
And that's just always been my first love. I've always just loved painting the face and drawing the face. And so I guess maybe about 2 or 3 years ago, though, I had a friend, she called me and she's like, hey, my niece is getting married. And there's this thing called live wedding painting. And I just wanted to see if maybe you'd be interested in doing that for her wedding. And, I had seen a little bit of artists doing it online, Instagram or whatever. And I thought, gosh, that's so wild. That's so pretty and everything. But the initial, whenever she suggested it to me, it scared me to death because I thought, oh my gosh. I mean, first off, this is somebody's wedding, you get one shot at it. And that's, I had memories from years ago when I thought I was going to try to photograph weddings.
Yeah.
And I had photographed a couple of weddings, and this was like before I had a digital camera. And so you sat there and you waited and you worried about the photographs turning out, and you knew that you would ruin someone's life if you didn't get it right. So I had that fear. And when she asked me, I said, let me think about it. But no, I was just way too scared to do that. I was like, no. And so I hated to disappoint her. I'm such a yes person, but I kept seeing other people doing it. And then it wasn't too long after that, another person reached out to me and asked me if I would do it. And I thought, I have got to quit letting fear always dictate everything I do, because I have always been such a worrier, just really struggle with a lot of insecurities and stuff. And so I thought, well, let me just try it. If something goes wrong at the wedding, I can take it back home with me and maybe redo the thing, So I agreed to do it for somebody's wedding. It was at the beautiful Waters Chapel in Pike Road. It was just a gorgeous venue. The family was just so sweet and so kind. And I don't know, it's just something grabbed me from the moment that I walked in I had so much stuff to load. I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
I parked in the wrong place. I had the wrong gear. I just, I was just a big mess when I showed up.
Yeah.
But it was just such a beautiful thing to be a part of. And it just came together so much easier than what I thought it would.
Oh.
I think, I don't know, maybe the romance about being there was part of it too, that I don't know, everybody was, happy. And so it was just it was like a whole vibe that I just got into. And I fell in love with it that very, very first wedding.
Wow.
Yep.
Oh, wow. So I guess I imagine that you like studied up and were like, okay, this is what I need to do. Like I've noticed that currently you're painting the background ahead of time, right?
Well, what I do is I've done a lot of research, yes,
Yeah.
because I, I don't want to show up and take anything lightly. So what I do is I arrive to the location 2 or 3 hours ahead of time, and I get
Wow.
myself set up and I calm myself down and I create my little nest in the corner.
Yeah.
And then I start in the background, which is what the couple and I have agreed that they want me to paint. So I just start off doing that, the chosen scene. And then usually during the wedding, there's so like
Yeah.
first kiss or first look or after being pronounced husband and wife. I'll snap a couple pictures, and then after the wedding, I start adding the couple on top of the background. So it just kind of all develops from nothing until my goal is at the end of the night to have a finished painting. And so far I've been able to do that every time. So it's a really exhilarating feeling to get there from the beginning and start from nothing from scratch and then finish up the night leaving it with the couple, which is, a lot of artists don't do that. A lot of artists will take the painting home with them and they'll finish it in studio, which has their own preferences and want to do it. But for me, I really enjoy being able to create the painting there on the spot and hopefully leave it with the couple.
Yeah. So do you like take any pictures or things like that and so that you can work from it? Or how do you go about like capturing what you need?
Yeah, I'd work a lot from photographs and from life. A lot of times, well, I would say the majority of the time, I'm set up at the reception location. So it's hard, to move a bunch of equipment from like the wedding ceremony location to the reception. So most of the time I stay set up in the reception and I'm working from a combination of photographs and then also from life. Trying to capture I don't know, the ambience because every wedding, the bride and the groom and the family have put so much time and so much thought into the aesthetic that they want it to to look like. They've chosen their colors, their venue. There's so many details, and so I try as best as I can to kind of capture that with my brushes and just to try to give it its own unique kind of life as it's unfolding that night, which
Yeah.
sounds a lot more magical than it actually is.
Well, I remember like I can't remember when I first started seeing people do that, but I want to say the first paintings that I saw or first artists that I came across, probably on Facebook or Instagram or something, there was no, it wasn't anything close to what you've been doing. Like you have been really doing these amazing pieces, and it's so impressive because you're getting all of these details and like obviously you're, very good at doing, portraiture, but also capturing, their outfits in the background and everything is just so beautiful. I feel like I just want to know how you do it.
Well, I think starting from portraiture, having my background really steeped in portraiture and painting the figure, it was just a natural transition for me in some ways. I didn't expect it to be so because I really thought with my personality makeup that the stress would just drive me absolutely nuts. But it just seems to have been just a real natural transition for me. I've always loved the details. And so, a lot of artists, they maybe paint faceless. I've seen a lot of artists who like to
Yeah.
do like faceless wedding portraits, but for me, that's like the good stuff, Like I've always loved the faces. And so that's something that I try very hard to when I leave that painting, I want that couple to say, "Oh, that's us. That's you totally captured us."
Yeah.
And so I try really hard to do that because I want them to I guess I call mine more of like a portrait style live wedding painting.
Mhm.
Um, so mine more focuses on the couple themselves. Some artists also they'll have like a bunch of other wedding guests in the painting. They may have like the whole, a whole room of people, whereas my style is more focused on the couple, and I like to kind of catch that intimate moment between those two.
Yeah, yeah. So you got your first wedding and you really fell in love with it. Then what happened? Like, did you think, "Oh, well, I need to start promoting myself as a wedding artist, wedding portrait artist," or like what happened next?
Well, it was just super exciting for me. And yeah, I did start thinking, this is something that I could see myself, I want to do this more often. But then also I'm a mom and I'm a wife. I have a full-time job. I want to balance my life. My children are getting older. I've got two children. And I thought, I want to enjoy this without it being something that feels like a chore or work.
Yeah,
Um, I don't have a great desire to be catching flights all over the United States and
sure.
beyond. What I would like to do, I enjoy painting around Alabama.
Mm.
I've been able to go to Mississippi. I'll be in Mobile shortly. I've been to um, South Carolina, just around Alabama and the southern states. I enjoy doing that. So when I started looking at how to reach more couples, a lot of it really is word of mouth. When you're
Yeah,
at a wedding, you meet so many people, so many other young couples. You give out your card, you do the basic marketing. You build an email list and you share it with people. Social media. Oh my gosh, what would artists do without social media nowadays? It is such a huge benefit and tool to artists. And my work would not be visible nearly as much as it is, without social media. Social media has gotten me a lot of inquiries, a lot of bookings. And so I just do my part to kind of reach out to people that way, the old fashioned, emailing, things like that. But I mainly, like to focus within the South and within my area because, I mean, we are so blessed with so much talent all across the United States and beyond. There are so many wonderful artists that can do this. They have a passion for that, and this way fits my life more. I can enjoy, on the weekends. Well, like this past weekend, we made a little family getaway out of a wedding that we did in Poplarville
yeah,
because on the way we got to stop in Laurel, Mississippi, which is where they filmed the show Hometown. I'm a big HGTV nerd,
yeah.
and I'd never been that way. So
Funny.
my husband and my daughter, we made a little trip out of it. And I had also never been to New Orleans. And
Oh,
my husband figured out, he's like, this wedding venue is just like, there's only 70 more miles to New Orleans. He said,
wow.
so he's like, do you think maybe when you're at the wedding that me and our daughter should maybe drive down to New Orleans and check it out? And I'm like, yeah. So they did, while I'm at the wedding, I was super, super jealous. And of course they only had a little bit of time to do that, but my daughter was so excited. She was sending me photos and
Yeah.
it's just it has become a way that it's not just something that I enjoy. It's also something that I enjoy doing with my husband and my daughter. They kind of come and help me set up sometimes. And some weekends, if I'm close to home, I'll just do the driving and the setting up myself. But it works for us, it works for our life.
Wow, that is so interesting. I didn't even think about the traveling aspect of it. I guess I just thought, well, people who know each other are going to be in this state or whatever, but I guess it would kind of eventually get out to other people too in other states. So that's really cool because then you can like
There are
bring the
there
family
are art
along. Yeah.
right. They're hopping. There are artists that are like traveling all over with like on airplanes, and I mean, they're painting with oils. They're traveling with like I paint with acrylics. To me, it's just simpler. It's easier. I don't have to worry about wet paint. But
Mm.
there are artists who are absolutely amazing because they're traveling with oil paints, which stay wet for weeks,
Yeah.
and they're packaging it up. They're stretching their canvases out on site, and you know, it's just you
Holy
can take it as
cow.
far as you want to take it. And they're going to, Punta Cana and all these amazing destinations. And I'm super happy to just go to Tuscaloosa or
Yeah.
like that
Oh, that's
because I'm a
fun.
hometown. I like being around home, but yeah, it is such a super cool thing that has come open for artists who enjoy that type of thing, that type of work.
Uh, And so, like, when you're in that environment and everything, do you ever get like distracted? Or I mean, like, I'm picturing like people who are drinking and they're like, have you ever had any accidents or strange, crazy stuff happen while you're trying to like finish your painting?
Oh, well, nothing crazy or strange, but you do meet a lot of fun people, people that come up and they've got a lot of funny comments. They love the classic joke as, "Oh, so this is your first time doing this, huh?" And they love to tell me that they can't draw a straight line. What I really love and enjoy is when little kids come up to me. They're so
Oh,
curious. Little kids they just want to know what you're doing. They come several times. They have their questions. They're natural artists.
yeah.
And I just love talking to little kids and, people of all ages. They're just intrigued. Like, um, it was a couple weeks ago, I was painting one and, I start on the background and everything. And so I was painting the background and people were commenting, about it was pretty and everything. And then this man comes in. It was actually the father of the groom. He came in on later and he was like, he had no idea that I was actually painting his son and bride, his son and his new wife on the canvas as well. And he was screaming. He's like, "Oh my gosh, she's actually painting them, guys." You know, like it's amazing to me that so many people are they're just as excited about it as I am, and they've got so many questions and it just fires me up. It gets
Yeah.
me up, it gets me excited because I mean, I think as artists, that's what you want. You want people to feel a passion for what you're doing.
Sure.
And when they express that, it's so fulfilling. It really is.
Yeah. And it's not like, your work isn't off in like a gallery or you're shipping it off and you don't get to see that first, you know, oh, that's amazing or whatever, like you don't get to see the reaction when they first see it, but I'm sure you get to see that all the time, right? Like everyone.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of fun. It really is, I and then I think also there's been like you have to learn like a lot of skills that maybe you didn't think that you would have to learn before
Yeah.
when I was doing um landscapes or floral art, things like that. When you shift into live wedding painting, then you also have to learn how to film yourself. You have to learn how to
Yeah.
take more photographs of yourself while you're working. A lot of
Oh,
artists make progression videos from the
sure.
start to the finish, and a lot of artists make videos of the couple, the painting reveal, and that sort of thing. So they'll have like a camera set up that captures all of that. So, and that
Wow.
really, it does go into the experience of being a live wedding painter because it's not just a product, it is an experience that the couple is, paying to have at their wedding. It's so there's a lot of different parts to being a live wedding painter. that kind of challenge you and stretch you in ways that maybe you wouldn't have thought that you would be getting into as just a fine artist.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, I've enjoyed that part of it, but it takes a lot of research and, just growing in your skill set.
Yeah, that's
And I've
interesting.
learned a lot from other artists.
Yeah. I imagine that there's probably like groups out there of artists that like maybe on Facebook or something where they share, or give advice or whatever and talk about being a wedding
Yeah.
artist. Yeah. And I
Right. There are all kinds of groups. There's all kind of like social media groups, Facebook groups,
yeah.
that artists that are helping each other and kind of giving advice and stuff.
Wow. But I've noticed that you had started doing videos of yourself, and I want to say that you got like a special easel or like it's like very ornate, beautiful easel, and it's kind of all, decorative because it's at a wedding, So, I mean, all
Yeah.
of that
Yeah.
is
I call
really,
her Lady Violet.
yeah.
Yeah. She's named Lady Violet. And I had started searching for her online. It's like a Baroque carved easel, just a way to, when I first started out, I used just a traditional French easel, that opens and closes and folds out like a spider.
Yeah.
But I wanted to kind of create, like almost like you were stepping into an old world artist's studio, give it more of a romantic appeal. I wanted to kind of up my game a little bit and put more thought into the setup whenever people show up. So I try to be very thoughtful about the pieces that I choose to go in my space so that it not only works in a modern, smart way, but
Yeah.
then it also has kind of a historical appeal of the past too. Those are kind of the vibes I'm going for. I'm kind of a boho soul anyway.
Oh, that is so neat. I mean, like I hadn't even thought about, how it's an experience. You're almost like performing, in
Yeah,
itself because you're making the art, but you're also like people are basically entertained by your working right there on the site. So that's
yeah,
crazy. So like
yeah.
did you kind of set up pricing, or do you have like specific size paintings that you do, or like how did you go about deciding that?
Well, again, I did a lot of research, but you know what I found is that this generation, they like access to simple, easy information. So
Mm,
what I offer is I offer 3 different packages, which are mostly based on size.
yeah.
And, I try to kind of break down what I do in a nice little pretty guide that I can send out easily.
Oh,
And that's really what people want. People want to know, why choose you? What makes your work different? Why do you do it? A little bit about your background and who you are and, why this appeals to you. And then they want to know what they're going to get. So I try to have everything professionally packaged and so that I can send out information quick and people have the information that they need without having to comb through it. I just
sure.
find that for the generation, what is it, Generation Z?
Yeah.
What are we?
Yeah, Z,
They're
I
not,
think. I
they
don't
don't
think
want to do
Alpha's getting married yet.
okay. So, I try to be really organized with the way that I send out information and try to be simple also with what I offer so that, gosh, as of right now, I am planning out my own daughter's wedding. She is getting married in January. And so I have so much empathy for parents and brides because there are so many different things that you have to choose through and sort through to plan a wedding.
Yeah.
There are, just choosing a venue alone, you will be so confused because this venue offers this for this money, but this one you have to rent chairs, or this one is an all-inclusive, or
Yeah.
there's so many different details. So I just find with being now, I guess you would call it a wedding vendor,
Yeah.
that it's just easier to give people simple, easy choices in what packages that I offer. And
Yeah,
that seems to have worked better for me.
yeah. Now, do you have this on your website or is this like an email that you're sending out? How are you doing that?
Well, what I do is I have an easy, when people go on my website, which is kittysmothers.com,
Mhm.
they will have, there's a box there that says request a free guide. They'll put in their email and then they'll get a free guide in their email. And so they'll have that within just a few
Oh,
minutes.
wow, that's
Mhm.
awesome. That is really cool. You're also doing, outside of that, I've noticed that you've got some work that was in a show somewhere. I'm trying to think. It was landscapes, I think.
At university, they have a collection of my paintings hanging
Yeah.
up now in Jones Hall, which it houses their social work and their nursing department, health sciences. So there's a series of 5 of my paintings that are hanging up there, which is such a huge honor for me because I have worked with a university for 24 years now.
Yeah.
And I earned my BS there and then my MS there. And so it's just a huge honor for me to just to have my work there. And then also recently I've completed an art show, or actually it's still at the Johnson Center in Troy. There was a Saints and Sinners art exhibit,
Yeah.
Southern Saints and Sinners, and it was a call for juried art. And so I submitted a couple of paintings, and I was just absolutely floored that I won second place.
Wow.
And so, yeah, so I've had a couple of really exciting things going on with my artwork. So
Yeah.
just really excited. And spring is the perfect time for all this craziness to be going on.
Yeah, I'm sure that you're going right. You're like right in the middle of your busiest time where you're like having to, kind of juggle multiple events and things like that. So that's really cool though. I love it. And so like so are you kind of focusing on the wedding portraiture? Are you still building other work that you're doing for like shows and events and things?
Well, yeah, right now my main focus is on weddings. And, I honestly, I am trying to pay for my own daughter's wedding. So, so this year I've been like
Fun.
really, I'm hustling all the time, but, got a wedding to pay for. So, that has been my focus is more on the wedding paintings. But then also I'm actually working right now on a portrait painting of a child. So I've got my hand in a lot of things at one time. I'm just a natural born hustler, I guess. I'm always doing something, always slinging art somewhere.
It's so much fun. I'm so excited for you. It just sounds like I can hear the excitement and the love for doing that kind of work in your voice when you're talking about it. So I can imagine, that probably makes the work even better, and that you're
Yeah.
excited and that you're energized by doing that kind of thing. Because I imagine myself being like, "Ooh, can't do that."
Well, I
I
just really
want them to
feel
see
I feel so
it.
grateful that people trust me with that. I don't know. I just feel so humbled that people trust me with their wedding day. I mean that's a very
Yeah.
important part of their lives. And I'm such an introvert, but I have really enjoyed meeting so many people. I mean, they've just been so kind to me, and so many. I also want to say, like, other wedding vendors that aren't even necessarily, artists, but like DJs, caterers, planners. There's just so many
Yeah.
wonderful people out there that are willing to, help you out, or give you advice, or hold the door open. I don't know. It's really heartwarming to me to be able to meet so many awesome
Yeah.
people. This past weekend, a grandmother came up to me and she had tears in her eyes, and she was talking about how much she loved her granddaughter, who it was her wedding day, and she was so proud of them. And I thought to myself, what a blessing it is to just be a part of that. I mean, I get to take my painting, my canvas and my paints, and I'm standing here in like a pretty much a castle, and I just feel so, I don't know, just so overwhelmed with gratitude that this is the job that I get to do on my weekends, you know. It's a
Yeah.
great thing.
And I imagine those paintings are going to be cherished for generations to come. I mean, could you imagine, great grandchildren, great grandchildren, and it could be passed down, and just cherished forever. That is so
Yeah, I hope
cool.
so. That's the idea. Yeah. That's totally the idea. And
Yeah.
that, I mean, that's a mind-blowing thought really when you think about it. I mean, and it's that way. I think you would agree, like any of your artwork that you make, that's you want it to hold that much meaning for the person that it ends up in the hands of, you know. You
Yeah.
That's why we do what we do, because it's a meaningful thing to create art. And I just think live wedding painting, it's just, it kind of elevates that that feeling that your artwork is actually it's so meaningful to somebody, you
Yeah.
know, in a way that maybe I didn't have that same ability to do before. But
Sure.
it's a beautiful thing. It's just
Yeah.
I'm totally sappy about it.
I mean, gosh, there's so many levels of it that, like, I'm watching from afar on social media thinking, wow, that's so cool. But I hadn't thought about, the emotion around it and the people being there and watching you and their response. And just like, I mean, I would probably end up crying in the middle of the thing because I was like, overcome with emotion or whatever, because that's just so
Yeah.
amazing. Wow.
Yep, it is. It's a
So
lot of fun.
what kind of advice would you give somebody who's maybe interested in doing that themselves, being a wedding artist?
You know, as I think I've said this before, maybe on our last interview, but I would just encourage people to go for it because there's plenty of room out there for all of us artists.
Sure.
You know, um, I really believe that in artists supporting one another.
Mhm.
And, you know, if I can help another artist with some advice, that's totally, you know, I'd love to do that. I have met some amazing artists, you know, and there's another artist. She does, I don't know if you've ever heard of live wedding guest paintings. That is also another avenue for artists. So what you do is you set up and you paint little miniature portraits of the guest all night long. So I
Wow.
have a friend who does that. And so she'll recommend me for live wedding paintings, and I'll recommend her for guest wedding paintings. But, you know, that's, you know, if, for somebody who's interested in that, another artist, I just say go for it and try it. You'll find that there's amazing people, amazing resources out there that will help you. You'll meet other artists. You'll be totally excited, and you'll learn quickly when you get in it whether or not this is something that is totally for you. You know,
Yeah.
you gotta test it out and see how it goes.
About how many weddings did it take you to truly think, okay, this is it. This is what I enjoy. How many?
I
Just
was wrapped
one?
within like the first like two, maybe two times I was wrapped. I was ready to go. I didn't say I
Awesome.
was completely prepared, but I was excited and ready to go. I made a lot of mistakes. You know, I've messed up and I've had to fix things, or I've had to change up my schedule or whatever. You know, you learn and you grow just like with anything that you do. Any new thing, you're going to learn what works best for you as you go along. So it's a learning process. But I just really found that I have a real love for it, a real passion for it. And I don't think there's anything more fulfilling than knowing that you're doing something that you really love and that others love.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, that is just amazing, Kitty. Thank you so much for coming back on again and telling me all about this so I could just like ask you all the questions and get all the details about what's going on, because I see it in your work that you really love it, and it's just it shows, you know, I
Oh,
guess is what I'm trying to say.
thank you. I really, really, really enjoyed it.
Thank you for listening to Art Talk with April. New episodes are out every Tuesday at 6 p.m.